Hey, what's going on, Maschine Masters? My name is MGTheFuture. Thank you for joining us today. Today's tutorial is going to be in vein of Drake's new Scary Hours release, which is a short EP with 2 new tracks. One that caught my attention was Diplomatic Immunity, which features Boi1da and Nick Brongers on the beat. If you listen to this particular track on Spotify or YouTube, you're going to notice that there's a cool disco funk era type sample in the intro that kind of repeats, and then Boi1da has his drums going, which are kind of offbeat. And kind of 2 things stand out about that collaboration is that Nick Brongers and Boi1da did a lot of the early Drake records and mixtapes from the beginning, so it's cool to see them back together again. Nick Brongers also has another pen name called Al Khalik. I've mentioned that in some earlier Maschine Masters videos that I've done, but basically he's a sample interpolator. I used to hit him up on Facebook a couple of years back, 2010. And I used to always ask him how, what's the best ways to go about creating your own samples and things. And that kind of led to one thing, to another, to Trappanese, to pretty much what I do today and what I'm going to show you today. But this song kind of reminded me of it. So if you get a chance to listen to Diplomatic Immunity, definitely pay attention to his sample replay work, or in this case it might just be an original composition, because I know he's graduated with that experience, especially using Fruity Loops and like wave files and giga format type sound fonts. It's crazy. But anyway, this song's a lot of controversy. DJ Academics wants it to be about him. Joe Budden knows it's about him. The artist who did the artwork wants his artwork back, this guy named Rabbit. All kinds of controversy. That's really good rollout and attention for a bigger project. So I know that's coming. In the meantime, I did a type of sample interpolation of their sample interpolation, meaning I'm in the same key. I'm using some of the same tendencies, but I'm playing my own music in my own parts. And because I don't have those type of instruments they're using, I was forced to use orchestra sounds. So I'm using Serum and fake synthesized or wavetable synthesized orchestra strings, orchids, clavinets, and keys. So let me play that for you. So quite a few parts: the saxophone, the keys, the clarinet, a staccato, and a string, all stacked doing the same thing. Everyone's moving as one big chord. That's just my style of doing it. Nick Brongers would tell me to extend that and, alternate the parts similar to some of my New York trap tutorials and make it a full-length composition if you have the time and patience to do so. Now, what I would do to process it, to keep it true to an era, I would analyze some orchestra stuff that was recorded in the 60s and 70s, even some like the Philly orchestras and things like that, and use that spectrum of that orchestra and measure it against mine. Since we don't want any sample issues on the YouTube platform, I'm just going to spectrum map myself. So spectrum mapping, I pretty much caught the average EQ capture of my own content. And this is really useful for de-essing and things like that. Basically, you compare the average profile against the source. So if there's any S's or pops, it's tucked or compressed automatically. It's really cool. Isotope Ozone 8 is flirting with that with the new spectral stuff. T-Rac's new versions flirting with it. A lot of things kind of do it, but this one's multi-band and has been doing it the longest. It's an old plugin. So I'm gonna link those 2 together. I'm gonna turn the ratio all the way up so it's like a limiter. Turn threshold down, turn gain up, and kind of just squeeze against itself. So it's a more consistent sound. Now I'll put some plate reverb on it, which is one of my favorite things to do. Keep in mind, this is all EDM electronic music instruments. This is not intended for this, but you can still pull it off. Now I'll put wow on it, and one of my favorite presets are the vinyl ones. It's going to create that wobble. So that's half the battle. Now I got to add some vinyl to it though, some actual vinyl. And this is a new trick that I've recently discovered due to some new software that I've acquired, but no pressure in doing it. Normally we would bring a vinyl sample in from a turntable. Like if you have a turntable, just record the static of it looping or playing at the end of the record and layer it up with your sample, right? And that's good, but to my summation, it's not good enough. So I'm going to chop it up. I want the timing to be a little bit better, so I'm just going to take a copy of this and move it over. Cool, so it's looping perfectly. Now what I want to do is export my chord or my progression. Now this has all my mastering effects in my chain, and it also has the vinyl emulation on top of a vinyl static sample. So it's going to move and wobble even more. So you can even create your own fake vinyl from like isotope vinyl and things like that. And the reason why I'm exporting these is because the hack I'm going to show you is it's a cause for scary hours. No pun intended. So I'm bringing my chords into this program, which is kind of like a layered version of Isotope RX if you're familiar with post-production apps. Usually these are used to like take the siren out of the background of an outdoor news casting or something. So you work in a spectral area of space. Edison has something similar, all kinds of things. But this one is layered, meaning I can put multiple audio files on top of each other and analyze them together. Very similar to what Voxingo and those Spectrum Mappers do, where you have the EQ curve of one sound and on another track it's a different color, a different sound. This is a truer visual representation of that kind of philosophy or thought. My problem is, and why I put it in this program, is that the vinyl does not marry my chords. This program allows me to marry stuff, nothing short of magic. Feature I can't even put into words for you. You're just going to see and hear what it does. So these are my settings usually, and I keep the mix no more than 60-70%, usually less. It's kind of like a mix type knob. So I'm gonna push it on 60, a little bit higher than normal, and hit OK. And what it did was it took the profile of my chords and subtracted it from the vinyl sample. Now when we play the vinyl sample by itself, it sounds jacked up. It almost sounds like what it sounds like to move one note in Melodyne, right? Because that's what Melodyne is doing. Melodyne is this with a different purpose. But when I unmute my chords and play them together, now my sample is married to the vinyl. It's not around vinyl, it's not behind vinyl, it's not in a different space. They're now married in the same space, and you still have the volume control to turn the volume down on the vinyl a little bit. Or up. And I just do this step for extra realism because we're talking about creating our own samples, getting around the YouTube robot, taking people's music down, you know, the stunting on our expression and the issues with sample clearance. There's all kinds of problems why you'd want to start going the Nick Brongers route and not the MGTheFuture route with the new stuff. And it's a good time. So now I want to drop the pitch on it. So it's very convincing. It's getting very close and very scary. Get it? So now the drum part of it that Boi1da contributed to is kind of picking up on the G-Eazy wave, right? They're still kind of on that 504 bounce wave a little bit. And the reason why I know that, and this is how crazy the universe is and how familiar I am with everything, is that on this track, Diplomatic Immunity, there is no downbeat, right? There's no downbeat until the bass line comes in. So when there's supposed to be a downbeat, he skips it, then he does the kick snare. And that creates like this off-kilter kind of rhythm. It's a added bonus of a swing that doesn't exist. But if you think about that style, that comes from an older Drake track called Look What You've Done, from the Take Care album, I think, with the static major piano solo. And that was produced by Chase Cash, who is from the 504. So that drum style and that tendency and that kind of swing is more of a New Orleans thing. But West Coast cats do it too. So instead of putting our kick on the downbeat, a West Coast cat might put their snare on the downbeat and then just throw the whole rhythm and what you expect to hear off. So I'm gonna show you a couple examples of that. So normally when we do a trap pattern, we'll do something like this, right? We'll put it on the downbeats. This on Diplomatic Immunity is doing this. It's skipping that first beat. It's kind of making you wait for it, while in the meantime, everything else is on beat, like the hats and open hats and stuff. So you have a straight pattern like this. Another style is to start on the snare, right? Like, and the reason why I think a lot of those kids were doing that is back in an older version of FL Studio, there was a command or a shortcut to where you could take a pattern like these here and nudge them over. So you could take a regular straight pattern and just move it to a different start point. But when you do it in a West Coast context, it feels more organic because their chords also follow that rhythm. It's really crazy. Salute to F Major. He's one of the ones that pointed that out to me back in 2005 sometime. But anyway, but yeah, that's pretty much the magic of this track. It's an original sample. It's Louisiana off-kilter influenced drum patterns, and it's a straight rhythm pretty much the whole way through with some drops in the sample. And if you want to stress the sample out some more, just bring the pitch down some more. I'm going to do this bass too real quick. As long as FL doesn't crash, we're going to be okay. So these are all tuned to C, which is beautiful. I love a kit that thinks about that. On these samples, you have to adjust the envelope in the cutoff. There we go. Cool. And that's pretty much it. I mean, their arrangement is really simple in that track too. Like, just take a listen to it. There might be a few minor drum change ups, but as far as the magic or that mood and energy, it's really just a creativity test, I think, in my opinion, when you're doing it by yourself. Like, if I had Nick Brongers sending me the samples, he used to send those on MySpace, it'll be a different story. But if you're getting into composing and making your own samples and going through these processes, hopefully this video helps you and opens your mind to it so you can get more convincing results. If you can afford to take some of the sample packs from Maschine Masters and marry it to vinyl and experiment with them that way, or Serato Sample, combining multiple samples from different places, because you don't necessarily need to be a composer. You can go through some of these sample packs, take strings from there, put it in key, take keyboards from there, put it in key, marry them together, spectrum match those, of course, because they're from two different places, and then throw vinyl and anything. You can mix a subway driving by in the Spectralayers program. So the world is really yours, ours. 2018, year of the producer. But thank you for checking this out. My name is MGTheFuture. If you want to reach me on social media, I'm at MGTheFuture on Instagram and Twitter. Also, be sure to follow at Maschine Masters. Until next time, guys, peace.